It was such a hard time that I can't explain in words, to be honest. Like you feel that you are being eaten up or swallowed up by a black hole, and even I forgot how to cry in the beginning. I was like a blank slate. Speaking for my right is in my DNA.
What special is in my mentorship, which has made Malala so bold and so courageous and so vocal and poised?
Did you want to take revenge initially when Malala got attacked?
I
Thinking like, what if it doesn't go? What if Malala gets disabled or she doesn't survive? Will I be suicidal?
until now, for the last 9 years,
Yeah.
I have never ever heard a single word of complaint from her.
Did part of you feel guilty?
Yes. Look,
For me, life was in oblivion. When we came here, the first day, my life was a blur. I didn't know. I was just waiting for the day when we go back to Swat.
yes.
And then you realize that, okay, there's no going back home soon. And 4 years went past by of me stuck in my thoughts. I got trapped in the world of thoughts in the past. And I was doing more thinking than living.
Exactly. I understand that. Opportunities, the facilities, the freedom that they have now as a boy, if being that they didn't have that, what then they will feel?
What they will feel. Empathy.
Empathy. And that feeling will change them, to be honest.
I tell them, don't ask me what I did. Ask me what I did not do. I did not clip her wings.
Hello.
Hello, Vishal. Sangalle. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, my first guest, I wanted to do a
Is
podcast
your
for...
father?
Yes, it's my father. I wanted to do a podcast for a long time. And I'm not gonna lie, this is my first attempt, our first attempt ever.
Yes.
And you can hear my voice going a bit.
Yeah, it
Yeah, I'm
happens
slightly-
to everyone.
Yeah, I'm
You're very
slightly
brave.
nervous. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, so why I wanted you to be my first guest is the person I am today, the peace I have today, you have inspired me. And if it wasn't possible for you, I wouldn't be the person I am today. And that's all about being content with yourself, And you have taught me amazing values about life. And it's been, we have had a hard journey. And having you by my side has been the best thing ever.
Yeah.
So tell me about you. How are you coping during this COVID, this weird time?
So thank you for having me. I mean, as first person on your podcast, and I'm glad to have this conversation with you. It will be not father-son conversation, like traditional with traditional kind of gap or kind of what generation gap.
Generation
something.
gap here.
Let's be. We will be like conversation of two friends.
Two friends, yeah.
Oh,
And that
so
was
I would like to be very open to be speaking.
And that was my...
Okay, sir, na?
No, it's okay. We'll leave. Yeah, you basically said, should we start again? It's all fine. We'll go with the flow.
This is not right.
No, this is a part of it. This is a fun part of it. So, yeah, so that was my main incentive for this podcast. I was like, it's quite important, especially from our culture. Parents, father and son relationship is very formal, and I believe that from the character you have given me, and for a happy life.
But I didn't answer your first question. You said that how it's going on in COVID.
COVID, yeah.
So let me answer that first.
Okay, sorry, I'm getting ahead.
So life is not always easy. I mean, we all have ups and downs in life, weak and strong moments, difficulties, fluctuations. And this COVID is something that it's something we are all facing together as humanity. In some parts of the world, it's harsher. In some parts of the world, it's milder. And I'm one of the billions of people who is like going through this lockdown times. You yourself as well. So these are unusual times. We can't meet our friends. We can't go out. There is nowadays there is the strictest lockdown in the UK. So it's difficult, but it gives sometime. I mean, it gives you an opportunity to be more with your family. It gives you a time to reflect more on yourself and what you do. It gives you more time to meditate. So I mean, I'm doing well so far. Not frustrated. I'm okay.
Yeah, and you know, speaking of, like as you said, that it's a hard time for humanity, but as we see through life, whenever someone stays resilient to hardship, they always come out better of it. Mental challenges, like these challenges, they test us, and I've learned through my life that staying resilient has always, I've always come out on the better side of things, and in a way, I mean, humanity needed this self-time with itself. You know, technologically we have gone so far, but our actual being aware of our own self, we have lost it. Yeah, I don't know if you agree with that or not, but yeah, I feel like humanity needed a break because of the, you know, to self-observe where we're heading, our goals. Yeah, and like if we look in the past, whenever humanity has gone through a lot of terror, and whenever like we have stayed resilient, like for example the world wars.
What are you are saying right now? I am thinking and I am just reflecting on, and it reminds me of a small incident in Lahore, and like we were buying computers for our school. It happened some, you can say some 12-13 years ago, and it was my first or second time in the big town of Lahore, and I was not used to the streets of Lahore. So I with a friend of mine, we were just walking in the streets, going to different shops to buy parts of computers. And I was so tired, so tired, and we were in a very big plaza, like which was a computers.
Why did you need a computer?
No, I wanted to buy computers for school, for the computer lab. And when I was so tired of everything, all of a sudden I heard the voice of Azan. You know Azan, a prayer call. And believe me, you know, I'm not a religious person that much. But when I heard Azan, it was so beautiful that I said, okay, we need a break. And there was a nearby mosque in the plaza, small mosque, and I went there, and it was one of the beautiful time that I spent there, like saying my prayers. But I mean, what I mean that the world, like the human beings, we have been busy for centuries,
and
for decades, I can say, and enhancing things,
innovating constantly,
and making things big and more and more, and to have things in abundance, and that not hunger, I can say,
it's a consumer culture,
and that ambitiousness, too much ambitiousness of having too much in life, and not saving anything for the coming generations. So I think it gives us a break that we reflect on the way we are moving forward. Are we bulldozing some basic human values, and are we crushing our own beautiful earth with our greediness for more power and more wealth? That gives us a time of reflection, especially in the context of climate, that the world should rethink, humanity should rethink how should we live our lives, and how should we keep a balance to have this beautiful earth for millions of years to come, rather than swallowing up at once, like a greedy man who had a hen, and the hen was giving golden eggs. And one day he thought that why not having all the eggs at once? And rather than waiting for an egg in a day,
it kills it, doesn't it?
he slaughtered the egg and explored, and there was.
He slaughters the goose, doesn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, a story you can understand.
Yeah.
So I mean, we have to have a full stop to that kind of human behavior. I
was reading the 5 a.m. Club, and it said that rest and recovery is not a luxury, but it's a necessity. And you know, especially this pandemic, it truly highlighted the importance of mental health problem. And you know, it's something we have struggled with throughout our lives. I think pretty much everyone goes through depressive stages. No one is safe from depression.
Of course.
Yeah. And I know so many students, like I had my first semester at King's, and the challenges I faced were there were a lot of difficult and lonely times, and I truly realized that, like, especially in our culture, it's so taboo, and I don't understand. If you can help me understand why a man talking about him mentally being vulnerable, why is it like an ego problem, or why is it not in the culture?
Yeah, I mean, culturally, especially in patriarchy and in many culture, those are men's made culture. I mean, when we think of manhood, and when we say man, be a man, so we always associate being a man with being strong, being stout, being sometime callous and sometime insensible, like not sensitive, and having no feelings, and very, very like strong like stone. And that is not us. I mean, we are human beings.
Human beings. Yeah.
We are human beings, and the way we define manhood, the way we define we define strength, that is actually makes problem. So I mean, if I suffer from something, or if I have an empathy for somebody in difficulty and in trouble, and I want to cry, so I should cry.
Yeah.
Why should I stop myself from crying, or why should I program myself in a way to pretend that I'm very strong and I never cry? So when we do such kind of thing, we program ourselves like this, or our elders program us, or the society or culture program us in a way that we go against our basic human passions or basic human feelings. So we are very hard upon ourselves. So the most powerful thing for a human being is to express herself or himself. And when you express your real self, so that brings your beauty, and that is your real strength. I mean, if you are able to bring out your real self, what is inside, and you don't care about what they will be saying, how they will judge me. I mean, if you ignore that part, then I mean, you feel more strong. You feel stronger. So I mean, I agree with you that many people who have mental issues and who have problems, and there are a lot of mental issues, and I'm not a medical doctor, but so many young people, we waste their potentials, but because we don't, they are programmed in a way that they don't express themselves, and we don't cooperate with them, we don't encourage them to share what they feel, what they think.
Yeah. And this is exactly what I mean. Having a formal relationship with your parents, I believe in being best friends with your son.
Yes.
And by being best friend with you, like this is extremely relatable. When we initially first moved here, I went through a very bad mental health problems because of the traumatic experience we went through of my sister getting hurt. And what I realized initially, I had this, ego, like, I kind of heard about, I didn't know what fully depression was. I heard about it, but I was like, I had this ego. I was like, no, it can't happen to me. I'm strong, all of this. And then I suppressed a lot of things. And during my sixth form, which is basically the A-level exams period we have in order to get into uni, in the first year of that, it all hit me at once. And you remember, I had zero motivation. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to do A-levels, if you remember. I was just lying in my bed. My sleep schedule was shattered. And what helped was speaking to my friends. And this is what girls do way better than boys. They share a lot. And that's why they're more, whenever the girls are going through, we need to learn from them, honestly.
I think you said something very beautiful. I mean, boys can learn from girls. How to be more expressive about their issues, about their problems, and how to express their humanity and their human self. I think, as you told that you had really very tough years in your sixth form because you had many questions. You did ask me whenever I tried to motivate you, or sometimes even have an argument with you, argue with you that you should study hard. Sixth form is so important, like all fathers do. And at some stage you were so disappointed, or you were so lost in your thinking or in your targets, that you said, it makes no sense. Why should I study these maths books and all this stuff? Why? What for? And but those
you
are
were
right questions.
See,
then my question from you would be, okay, let's not do sixth form.
Yeah.
Let's stop it here. What's next?
Yeah.
And then you would have no answer.
I had been that I didn't have an answer. This actually did take place.
And then you reflected, okay, I mean, so conversation it really helps. And then of course you had hard times, and you are very hard on yourself as well, because like me, to some extent you are very idealist. You want yourself to be very perfect, and your teachers comment on your progress report. I mean, the most repeated and common comment from various teachers is that Khushal is very hard on himself.
It's bad.
But that is fine. You will get milder on yourself with passage of time.
Yeah.
But the good thing that happened to you was when you did not succeed in your first go in your sixth form, and you changed yourself in the second round.
Yeah, and that setback was actually the greatest thing that happened to me, and especially in our society. I mean, I'm lucky that I have you as a parent, but I know some parents, they put so much pressure on their kids that they end up committing suicide. Their mental health takes a toll on them because of their academics not going well, and not having a room for failure is, I mean, that's how we learn. We learn through setbacks.
Yeah, but one thing which I really appreciate in your transformation was your own, like you found your own way by yourself. Of course, you had great friends like Shahbaz, like Oli. You have godmother, like a mentor, like Dr. Fiona.
Yeah,
and of course, blessed. I'm your father. You have Malala, you have Turpekai. But what I what I saw in your journey of transformation is that you found your way yourself. Like I was wondering what were you doing when you started physical fitness, and you were determined to change, but you did not go to books directly. You
Directly,
didn't
yeah, I
go
agree.
to studies directly, and you began from your physical fitness activities. You started going to gym. You started running, and you started that what that's called
Boxing,
kind of thing, and
Yeah. You know,
after
yeah.
like having mental fitness and physical discipline, you move towards then your intellectual to explore your intellectual potentials and to work on your intellectual potentials and to like from physical fitness you
They reciprocated. The two things,
Yeah.
they helped each other.
yeah so
Saying- taking- yeah.
you started then study and you improved your subjects and you reappeared in exam and you had good grades and then thankfully now you are in King's College. So having a place in King's College London, it's a big achievement for any student. So this is good, but you found your place yourself, and I'm so happy for that, because what you achieve by yourself, and when you go through difficult situation, it makes you stronger.
Yeah,
It makes you polished. My father used to say in Urdu कि दाना खाक में मिलकर गुली गुलजार होता है. It means that when a seed goes through dark times and difficult times in the soil, inside the soil, you see, it then it grows into a seedling and a plant and a beautiful flower.
yeah.
So that seed which goes through in difficult time, then it has good days.
Yeah.
So this is just like that. So anybody who goes through difficult times, who goes through adversities in life, they are
They come out stronger, definitely.
they come stronger and they have more glow in their personalities. Their character is stronger.
Yeah.
So for a strong character, honestly speaking,
One
it
must
can't be
challenge
achieved
themselves as well.
without
Hardship,
difficulties
yeah.
and hardships in life, like people who are lazy or who go after easy things, that's fine. But
it's not fine.
the people who want to achieve or who want to contribute to their lives and to their families and to their communities, they have a different journey always.
I believe in everyone pushing themselves, the best they can, and by not, don't be me, don't be hard on yourself, obviously.
I have some.
And sorry guys, we had to cut it for a bit, but yeah, so back into it. Yeah, I fully agree with you. One must take accountability for their own success, and in Quran it says God only saves those that save themselves. And I'm 100% agree with that. I had to save myself. I had great support around me prior.
Yes.
In the first time, the 2 years I had when my exams didn't go well and I lost UCL, which is one of the best universities as well. And and that hurt because it's not easy to. Resilience is not easy, and this is why, like you said, when you stay resilient through hardship, why you have that glow. Because whenever anything easy in life is not worth doing. For me it was two paths. I was like, I can settle for an average university. Then I knew I was going to regret it in a year. And I was like, I take the longer and harder route. And what I learned that in life, the longer and the harder route is the correct path.
And I remember that many people were advising you that you should go to any college and you still can enter, and you were stubborn and you refused to go.
Which question? It came down to one question. I was like, what did God put me on this planet for? I was like, did he put me here to settle for average? And I was like, no, this is not what I'm here for. I believe in, a person just trying their best. And it's not a competition. It's not, because what a lot of people, and this is the issue with our, I'm going to be honest, one of the things I didn't like about your schools in Pakistan was ranking students, first, second,
You
third.
did that, yes.
Yeah, and that creates a competition, and students lose their self-worth and value. It's not a competition. It's all it is. It's trying to be better than the yesterday self of yours. And I basically, and I try not to be too keen on the result, because I was like, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. At least I can say I tried my best. So what about your hardship? How, when you didn't, this brings me to the point how you didn't, initially you wanted to be a doctor, and that dream of you, it didn't work out. I want to know what it took to let go of that dream of being a doctor, because it was your dad's great, he dreamt that for you in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, if you are born in a rural areas, in a village in Pakistan, and especially 40-50 years ago, you can understand that basically the youth, especially, I mean, girls are very less in education, but the boys, they are kind of investment for their parents. They invest in their sons, so they take education as a business.
Oh, okay.
For them, it's a business. Of course, they love their sons, beyond all doubts, and they want them to be good human beings, and to be like to learn about everything and life. But they are market oriented. So the parents think that if I'm spending on my son, so if he's a teacher, his income will be low and he will have less social recognition. But if he or she is becoming a doctor, they will see more prosperity, more recognition, upper status in the social status. So that is the kind of thinking of the parents. And there, the right of a child to be what they want to be, that is taken away from them.
Nice to, yeah.
They are robbed of their own ambition. They are robbed of their own ambition. If, for example, if a boy or a girl wants to become a singer, so singing is quite a taboo then, and that person could be with a beautiful voice and knowing the music, that person could be a great singer.
Yeah.
But the parents, I mean, they won't see a nod from them. They will be discouraged. So in my case, as I was growing up, becoming a doctor was one of the biggest possible achievements from education.
And it was the most competitive.
Parents could not think to see me as what can I say? No, not teacher. They couldn't see me on higher position than that, because sometimes people in the lower middle class or the lower class, they even don't imagine to see their children like seeing them secretaries in the civil government or in high positions in bureaucracy or becoming the leaders of their country. They can't even in their dreams see that. So my parents' dream, their maximum dream was to see me as a doctor. And
how was it like letting go of that dream?
They always inspired me to become a doctor, and doctor was the most respectable job. Doctors could earn more and more money, and their dream became my dream.
Wow.
Because as a child, you want to make your parents happy. because you think that
Maybe that was your dream, not really being a doctor.
yeah, of
that
course,
making them happy.
Of course,
rather than
my dream was to make my father happy.
Yeah, and that. Yeah.
And I loved my mother and father so much that one day my father told me that there is the tradition of the Holy Prophet that if you look at the face of your father with love, like if you have a blessing glance, what it's called, on your father's face,
Yeah, you bring him joy.
no,
Oh,
you will earn you will earn the sawab of 100 pilgrimages. Like it's as you go for pilgrimage 100 times when you look with love to your father. So I practiced that when my father was sitting in his cot in the charpai. So sometime I used to look at him with love just to earn the sawab or the reward of 100 Hajj.
And nowadays we're too busy looking
I
at
don't
phones.
advise you that. I mean, you can do that if you look at me, that's fine.
We're
But
too busy looking at phones, Instagram, what's Instagram?
yeah,
From now on, whenever I woke up, if you miss 100 pilgrimages, I'll be like, oh.
yeah. So you can imagine that a son's ambition
Yeah.
or a son's desire to make his father happy. You can think of that. So that's why their dream became my dream. But I was not good in science subjects like in biology, chemistry, physics, and especially in mathematics. So I couldn't perform well in my higher secondary exams, like in my A levels. I was hardly, I achieved second division. I was way behind the required grade for the medical institution. And at that stage, but one thing that my father really did when I was very little boy, he inculcated in me the love of learning, the love to learn, the love of knowledge. And he was himself a great scholar, and he knew a lot of history, and that pure wisdom that comes from reading like great poets like Rumi or Iqbal, or studying the Eastern intellectual scholars. So he had that. And I remember that he always told me that Ziauddin, this world is like an open book, read it. So he was great, and that was the reason that when he stopped interest in my education after I disappointed him or I failed his dreams and I couldn't become a doctor, after that he was not keen about my education, and at some stage even he advised me that if I become like teacher at an early age, that was not a bad idea, but he was like a clerk having some clerical job in an office to start earning. But I mean, I respectfully disobeyed him in a way that I did not go for his ambitions or his dreams further, because it was acceptable for me. The high dream was acceptable for me.
Yeah.
But when he set a low mark, then I through my actions and through my further studies, I communicated to him that no, it won't happen, because the spark that he had ignited in me, that was not going to extinguish with change in his interest. And that's why I carried on, I continued, I struggled with meager resources.
That's inspiring.
With meager resources, even he stopped me supporting the way he was supporting me until my O levels, and he didn't want to spend more money on my graduation. I borrowed from
Your mom.
friends. I borrow from my was living in a different village, and I borrowed from the elders, one or two who became my friends as well. So, but I managed to move forward.
Yeah.
I managed to move forward, and so this is how that.
Where did the passion from teaching come from? Because when you started following your passion, you went from having 7 students in a school, in a small school, to owning 4 or 5 schools, and that is, it just shows do what you love. So where did the love for teaching come from? Was it from your father?
I think we are a family of teachers. My father, you call him school baba, or did you call
I
him?
called him Baba.
Baba. So some people call him school baba, and we called him school kaka.
Yeah.
I mean school kaka, and it's a respectful name of respects for our elders in our culture.
Yeah.
We don't call our elders with their names.
With the name.
So his name was school kaka. School kaka means somebody who was about school, because he was a theology teacher in the school. And what was your question basically?
It was where did the passion for teaching come from?
Yeah, so he was a teacher, and he was a preacher, and he was a clerk in the mosque, and he was a prayer. He also led the prayers 5 times, and he was a great orator as well, a great speaker as well. So I can say that he was an incredible communicator, and a great teacher is an inspirational communicator, a communicator who inspired his people.
Yeah.
And basically he was a teacher in school, but he was a teacher for the community. He was a people's teacher, student teacher in the school, and he was a community teacher in the mosque. So he was a teacher square, like in 2 ways. We call square a teacher.
Yeah, not just a job, but also in his lifestyle.
It was kind of job, because he was had a compensation for his prayer leader role as well.
And he inspired you to, give speech?
He inspired. So my brother became a teacher.
Yeah.
And then I loved teaching. And I'll give you 2 examples that how did I love teaching. I remember that when I was in grade 8, 9, 10, and my brother, Khandada we call him, and Khandada, and Saeed Ramzan his name. May he live long with the best of health. He is ill nowadays. So he was a teacher in a very far-flung area. When you on the mountains, top of the hills, on the top of mountains, and he almost all his professional career, he served the students of the mountains, the children of the mountains, and they were the children of the lesser god, in a way that those children belonged to the families of poor peasants and poor coal miners.
That is admirable.
Yeah, but at that time, other teachers, hardly few teachers were there who were performing their duties in the mountains. Most of them stayed home, and they were very dishonest. But my brother was very honest. He always went to school. So I remember that as a boy, as a school boy, I went with him when I was free from my school classes. I went with him, and I volunteered myself to teach the young children. So that was one occasion, or that was one part of my keen interest to become a teacher, or my love and passion for teaching. And I did for a lot of many I did that on many occasions for many days. And then When I completed my education, like when I did my master in English, my English is quite poor, but
No,
I mean,
you're doing great.
it's fine. But I
You're
mean,
doing great.
saying master in English, I mean, sometimes it's difficult to
No.
say because people then will expect me that I will be speaking perfect English.
Perfect, yeah.
But
I mean,
that's-
you learned it from translating from Urdu to English. didn't
Exactly,
you?
yeah.
And in practice,
it's quite difficult anyway.
Yeah.
So when I completed my education and I went to my back to my hometown to Barkana, so at that time I started teaching in the same high school where I was graduated from.
Wow.
So, and at that stage, as I was freshly graduated from the college, I was more passionate and more like full of energy. And I went to my high school, to my alma mater, I can say, and I voluntarily taught the boys. And even one of the teachers, he was ridiculing me.
I wanted to
and
talk to
he
you about
was like backbiting about me that, oh, look at this boy. He is so free that he has nothing to do now and he's coming to the school and teaching the boys. He's really a stupid kind of person. But I had respect for I continued what I was doing. So from these two examples, you can understand that I had great passion to become a teacher.
Yeah. And isn't incredible this hobby of yours? It was just a hobby. You did it for love, and then that you ended up having 4 or 5 schools, and then from those 5 schools, now we have a girl that is worldwide known for the most fundamental thing humanity needs. What basically separates us from animals, education, and that's Malala Yousafzai. So it's incredible how little actions, small things you do in your past, can in future the influence you can bring through these skills is unimaginable. You would have never thought that. I don't know. When we do what we love, we sometimes do things beyond our imaginations. Speaking of, you told me about how that one guy was ridiculing you. You also told me that there was a person that wanted you to become a jihadi and stuff. I want you to tell that story. And then you told me that he wanted you to leave this education and thing. He wanted you to be a mujahid or something. And then his own son was actually...
he basically didn't tell me to leave education. He only, so he was teaching me the Holy Quran with translation.
Yeah.
And all the time, holy books, you can interpret them sometime for their own agenda, the way you want to interpret them.
Yeah. Take it out of context.
You take that context and you put it in you for your own agenda, put it for your own interest. And that was the time when there was a Cold War between the Soviet Union and USA, and Afghanistan was a hotbed of that, a hot battlefield for that war, that proxy war between the Soviet army and the Afghan Mujahideen, and these West Bloc against the Soviet Union to defeat communism, or to contain communism in Afghanistan, or to stop it there, or to defeat it. And that war was fought in the name of religion, Islam, and they used jihad as the most powerful tool, or the most powerful weapon to defeat the ideology of communism or the expansion of communism. They used jihad, the name of jihad for that.
Yeah.
And it was, you can imagine that jihad is traditionally fought by Muslims.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a word that comes from Islam, that comes from the Holy Quran. But can you imagine a jihad which has been hugely funded in billions and trillions by America,
Yeah.
where Margaret Thatcher goes to the borders of Afghanistan and she gives a speech to inspire Afghans to fight against the Russians for their freedom. So it was that ideology in that particular context that it spread so much that our madrasas were radicalized, and the jihad literature was spread far and wide. This ideology was spread through television, through print media, through the sermons of the Maulanas and Maulvis and clerics in the mosque, everywhere. And Ziaul Haq, who was the then dictator, he was patronizing that everything with state sponsorship.
Yeah.
So that was the time when my Maulana, who was in the mosque, I love him. He didn't know what he was doing basically. And he was trying to motivate me, or he didn't say me that I should go for jihad. He was just eulogizing.
Oh, glorifying.
Glorifying, yes, that is the proper word. You know more words than me. It's good. So he was glorifying, and that glorification, influenced me so much that after every prayer at that time, I used to pray to God, "Oh God, let there be a battlefield, let there be a fight between the Muslims and non-Muslims, and I should be killed." I wanted to become a martyr. So rest assured, be assured, your father was still peaceful. I didn't want to kill anyone.
Yes,
But I wanted to be killed, to become a martyr. So thankfully now...
They sell the idea of heaven, don't they? If you die in a battlefield, you go to heaven, and that's the whole...
Of course, I was not... honestly speaking, it was more about defending Islam rather than having some reward in the afterwards. I'm honestly speaking, I was not...
You're speaking for yourself.
So they usually misguide youth and hypnotizing them with the expectations of hoods, beautiful girls, and every things of joy and happiness in the afterwards and paradise. I was not told that much of that, but it was more about defending your faith, Islam, and fighting against the aggressors. So he appealed to my Muslim Pashtun militant insight to I should fight for my honor, for the honor of my deen, for the honor of my country. But that was a stage.
There was their own propaganda, wasn't it? I mean, Islam doesn't promote that. The true Islam, true Muslims, they believe in peace, and every true Muslim knows that. But it is so sad how Sharia law till this day, by integrating these politics into our regime, our democracy.
I can't see Islam. I mean, there at times maybe we should be very honest. Like Islam might be believing in war at some time, but that should have all those conditions that you should go for a war. The jihads that have been fought in the name of jihad,
it's self-defense, isn't it?
They are absolutely not jihad. And also, I mean, we have five basic commands or principles. That is kalma, believing that Allah is one and Muhammad is the last prophet of Allah. And then we have zakat,
prayer,
zakat, roza, and hajj. So these 5 things. But believe me, at that time, all these 5 things had gone to the background, or to the... They were overpowered, or they were
overshadowed
by this one thing that is called jihad. Okay. Anyway, I mean, we're talking too much about it. It's
Yeah, well, we'll move on to. I want to talk about. So we were talking about mental health battles, and I feel like this is currently the whole world. This is our biggest enemy currently, and that's depression. And when when the Malala incident happened, when she got hurt, when they tried to assassinate her, I can't fathom what you would have gone through as a parent. I know what I went through as a brother. And how did you feel, was there a part of you that felt guilty for encouraging her for activism and, yeah. Did part of you feel guilty?
Yes. Look, this is...
Sorry, we cut out. Also, I changed the book. Now it's in English. And yeah, so I wanted to ask, I'll repeat the question again.
Yes.
Did part of you feel guilty for encouraging Malala?
Most difficult questions which is often asked from me, and for me it's quite complex to answer, like complicated, because normally, usually, when most of the people find ourselves in such hard situation of conflict, so most of the people, they prefer to leave the area, to go away from the conflict zone, and their first priority is theirs and their family's safety. In our situation, it was not like that, because you know that I had 5 sisters and none of them could go to school, and education taught me that I should be a different father, and I was very keen about Malala's education, about Malala being herself. I named her after the Malala of Mevan, who was the legendary Pashtun Afghan heroine. She had her own name. Then I included her name in the family tree. Then when she entered the school, so all those dreams, I mean, what my sisters could not achieve because of being deprived from school, I was thinking of all those achievements through education. And that was the only way of emancipation for my daughter. And just imagine when that very right, when that is violated and that is denied, and that very dream is shattered, then obviously a person like me can't afford that loss. And I have told it many times that speaking for my right is in my DNA. And I could not compromise on the very basic human rights or my human dignity to be quiet and saying nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in our family, it was like father, like daughter. I did not like made Malala what Malala was. I just inspired her, and not only her. There may be my other students, other community leaders who would have inspired from my activism. So I gave her the environment of being herself, the environment to be expressing her views, her ideas, and the courage to stand, and the courage to raise her voice, and the courage to speak to power. So that was the training that I not only gave to her, but to all my students, and to you and to Atal. I mean, how much you would be able to practice it, and when you need it, that's up to you.
Yeah.
So So far, when it comes to the guilt, so the guilt part is, of course, I mean, when this biggest tragedy, when her life was attacked, and she was on the verge of life and death, and she was like almost killed, to be honest. That was the most difficult day. And though, like, why one should be guilty for doing something that was right? You feel guilty when you do something wrong. But of course, I'm a human being, and as you said, part of you. Yes, part of me, like, was thinking that should I feel guilty? Like, if I was not feeling guilty, but I did thought that should I feel guilty or am I responsible?
Yeah.
And at that time, your mother Torpeke came to my help, and I asked her, because whenever I face any problem, the first person I go to is Torpeke.
Yeah.
Your amazing, brave and brilliant and beautiful mother.
Even how you're telling me, like, you would look instead of looking into the mirror, you basically asked her.
I have told you many times that I believe in her wisdom so much that, or in her judgment so much that, when I go out of my home for my school duty or for anything, so instead of standing in front of a mirror, I just dress up and stand up in front of her. And if she says, okay, then that is fine. So on that very day, when Malala was attacked, on that very day, at night time, I asked her that what is she thinking about it? And she was very clear. She told me that you stood for the right of peace and education. And like you, Malala also stood for her right of education and for peace in Swat. And you should never, never, ever be repenting for something that was very right. The people who attacked her should be ashamed of their actions, should be ashamed of themselves. And they should have repentance. They should be ashamed. And I think that was the last time that I asked someone, and that was the last time that I had that dilemma whether I should feel or not, and that was gone. So now you can imagine that later on, like, for me, it would have been a lifelong question answer thing until my last minute in this world. God forbid if Malala had
passed
away, it would have been extremely difficult to explain to people who Malala actually was. And thanks God that she survived. It was a miracle that she survived. And she herself is witness to two things. And number one, she herself is a big evidence who she was and who she is, that I don't need to explain. Because the girl who was attacked and who spent some 3 months in the hospital and who went through multiple surgeries, after 8 or 9 months after her recovery, he went back to this stage, to the podium in the UN General Assembly, and she gave that historical speech that one child, one teacher, one book and one pen can change the world. So it was not me, it was Malala. And as she herself said that my father named me Malala, he didn't make me Malala.
That's beautiful.
So you cannot construct. It is not an engineering.
And you know,
you can inspire.
It's crazy because there were a lot of conspiracy theories and people like saying that, you know, there was kind of like they almost didn't believe that a person like her existed. And they were like, oh, it's her father basically puppeting her, and all those very unfair, let's not even call them criticism, this is basically it's all
You can say
conspiracy
nonsense, yes.
nonsense
Yes.
nonsense basically. And all you did was create an environment, so she you know, that you gave her that freedom to stand for justice herself.
Yes.
And you're right, like she stood, I agree with you. And like you said, her post incident activism is a evidence of that. But did it hurt you that you going through this extremely traumatic experience, and then people are basically making this nonsense that, oh, it never happened, it was fake? Did it get to you?
Yes, of course. I mean, we are human beings. We hurt when we are criticized.
Especially unfairly. Unfairly criticized.
We become happy when we are praised.
Yeah.
And Bertrand Russell says that man's sole desire is to be admired and to be respected. So when you are criticized, or you are bullied, or you are trolled for something that you never did, or for something that you didn't mean at all, and for the people who just hate you and they want to discredit you, or they want to belittle you, or they say that, oh, how an 11 or 12 years young girl can write a diary. On the one hand, they will not believe in a girl being able writing a diary, but on the other hand, they will believe
exactly
that
what I was gonna say.
Muhammad bin Qasim was he conquered Sindh at age 16 or 17. So I have no issue with that. So I read that in the history books, but like, you choose and pick according to your wishes, according to your
What you
likes
wanna
and
believe,
dislikes.
yeah.
So
Rather than
I mean,
actually believing the truth. I get, yeah.
it really hurts, but the most important thing that then you're fine, because the most important person is you. Because if you are doing something right and you believe in that, and you are doing it with a pure intention, as I said, that one thing was that it was Malala, not me, and the second thing was she was an evidence to the purity of my intentions. Because in Swat Valley, when there was Talibanization and they were ruthlessly inflicting inhuman atrocities on us, at that time, it was not a situation that people were given honors and awards for their activism. Their throats were cut.
Yeah.
There was no chance of having a crown on your head.
Even people are scared to associate themselves with
Exactly.
you guys. Yeah.
So we never thought that the only thing that we were thinking that how we should continue our activism and also save our lives, both. Anyway, I just had a digression. You were asking basically something.
Did it hurt you basically?
Yeah. But so I was saying that the most important thing is you, that when you believe in something and you stand for it, then you don't need to be scared or afraid of people's judgment.
Yeah.
Because then you don't remain a leader, or you don't remain a person who wants a change or who can make a change.
Yeah.
Then you will follow the people's popular views.
Yeah. And lose yourself, because
And you lose yourself.
Yeah.
So, if I believe in something and I do that and I believe in it, that's enough for me. And you can't, I should say this is something I want to share with the activists in our communities and with the activists in the world who are doing their activism for human rights or education or climate or any other human issue or human progress or betterment. I mean, the most important thing in their activism that they should do it is they think it. If you are asked that you should do your activism on many people's choices, I mean, you won't be able to divide yourself and meet the standard of other so many people. So you set your standard, you set your goal, and then you follow them.
And you lose your cause because
exactly
your cause is, if your cause is to, for example, help global warming, but you're too afraid of someone else's judgment, and you want to make people happy, then, you know, in psychology we've been taught it's about consistency, commitment, flexibility, and then change comes.
Yes.
And that comes with a lot of sacrifice. But you have to be consistent with your message.
I agree with you.
And you know, I basically initially the hate also the very so the hate also used to get to me, but I learned throughout the years when I matured that you would rather be hated by those people than loved, because if you loved by them, you're doing something wrong. And it highlights the problem with our country, how much the problem of jealousy, hate, and people not being content with themselves and choosing what to believe rather than wanting to know the truth. If there's no harm in being inspired by a girl. Like you said, if you can't believe that a 12-year-old girl wrote a diary, then how will that impact your girl? Like, do you not believe in your own daughters? Do you not see a future for them? So it highlights the main problem, the lack of belief. And I think it's not just in our culture, it's throughout the world. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. So did part of you was revengeful? Did you want to take revenge initially when Malala got attacked?
I use a word, and that's called positive revenge. I was bullied as a child, as a boy, for my stammering, for my dark color, or maybe for my being a boy with living with a little bit poverty. So even as a boy, I felt very hurt and very disappointed when I was bullied, and I used to feel very angry. Even at that time, I was very clear that bullying someone is very bad. Discriminating somebody for their color or religion or gender is unfair. And the good thing in my revenge was that I wanted to take revenge from the very evil, to finish the evil, like not the evil doer. For example, if there is a culture of bullying, so rather than reciprocating the bully with the same behavior, tit for tat, I wanted to stand for fairness, for justice, for respect, for tolerance, for accepting the otherness of others, for loving others.
Yeah.
So, if you just take revenge from one bad guy who has mistreated you, the evil will not end with that.
Yeah.
So the good thing is that you, rather than go after that one evil or 2, 3 evil doers, you go after the very evil, and you change the culture of evil.
Yeah. Sorry, we cut out again. Yeah, I didn't really prepare well for this, but yeah, I'll improve with time, hopefully.
Yes, you will improve.
Yeah.
Yeah. पहली बार मोहब्बत की है, कुछ न समझ में आए, मैं क्या करूं?
Yeah, good, bro.
And you understand this?
Yes, I understand.
So
it.
what does it mean?
It's my first time falling in love with something, and I'm finding it hard to understand the feelings I'm going through.
Okay, you're
Yeah.
good in translation, and you understand Urdu poetry is good.
I mean, not really. If you
If I say something difficult, like Ghalib's poetry,
no, please don't test. No,
like याद है गालिब तुझे वो दिन के फर्ती शौक में है कि फर्ती शौक से है, याद है गालिब तुझे वो दिन के फर्ती शौक में, जख्म से गिरता तो मैं पलकों से चुनता था नमक. You understand?
I mean, you're talking about some injuries, and I don't know, after getting
And
injured,
salt and
and stone.
leave it.
Yeah, what does it
Yeah.
mean though? Tell me.
Uh,
Because you did poetry in your, you have a book.
Ask me.
Yeah.
So Ghalib tells himself that, do you remember those days, the days when you were in your youthful exuberance, or in your like when you were full of emotions, and desires and excitement, that when salt fell from your wounds, so you took that salt and put it on your eyelashes.
Yeah, the translation, I don't think it's not doing it justice.
Maybe, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
not-
difficult.
it's difficult, yeah.
Okay, come to the point.
Yeah. Yeah,
I put myself in trouble.
No,
as
we
always.
went on a time. We went on a tangent. It happens.
Okay.
I was gonna ask, since we went through a very traumatic experience, did you have any prior, like post-traumatic stress, like with dreams or thoughts, or fear of something horrible happening again? Especially when Malala started to speak again, was part of you? Even though it was her decision, and it was her decision, it was her, she wanted to continue the struggle. Was part of you worried when she was starting her journey again?
Obviously, it was a tragedy, or it was something in our life which all of us can't forget.
Yeah.
I myself, Torpekai, your mother, Malala, you, Athal, like those were the most difficult days of our lives.
Yeah.
When your daughter is attacked and she is almost on the verge of death, and you don't know what will happen in the next 1 hour, 2 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
Like until a week, until we came to the UK, like it happened on 9th of October 2012, and we joined, we saw Malala when she had come back to the consciousness on like 16th of October. So, not 16th, sorry. We saw her in the UK on 25th of October.
Yeah.
So, it was like quite...
How did time go for you? Was it slow? Was it fast? And was it like a never-ending nightmare those days? Because I mean, the thoughts I was personally going through, that I was like, okay, when I was watching TV, when I was still in Swat Valley, and when the headlines were going, we saw Benazir's assassination, and and I was like, am I gonna see my sister the same way? Our headline's gonna go past, and God forbid. So every second was an hour for me. It was a never-ending nightmare. So how was it? How was time for you? What kept you faithful, and what kept you strong, and not crumble? Because I was still 12 or 13, so I didn't fully understand. I mean, I did, but not to extent a parent would, because it's your kid. So, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's blessing in disguise when you don't understand things in their complete understanding or with a full knowledge. Like Torpeke did not know at that stage that how serious these wounds or this trauma was. And even she thought that a brain injury, even if brain is like if there is a wound in the brain, it could be repaired. She was not aware of the seriousness or the intensity of the wounds and of the intensity of the condition which Malala was going
through. Yeah.
But I knew, and I
Did
was.
you speak to Dr. Fiona? Because she told me it was 80% chance that she could end up with a brain damage or. And I mean,
So
now when I think
every second of those days, right from the minute or from the second she was shot, and I knew every second for many days it was such a hard time that I can't explain in words, to be honest. Like you feel that you are being eaten up or swallowed up by a black hole, and even I forgot how to cry in the beginning. I was like a blank slate.
were you empty-headed?
Yeah, like you don't know what to do, and you hang like a computer. Everything stops working. Even your emotions fail to express themselves. So it was really the most difficult time, and then especially the excuse me, the day after. I mean, on the first day, there were some very hard times. The hard times of those days, like when I heard that our school van has been attacked, then when I went to the emergency, to the casualty in Mingora, and I saw her unconscious on stretcher. And when we moved to Peshawar, and she was taken to Peshawar, and there that was very hard time because we
were you
did
even
not know.
able to speak to someone? I mean, when I was reading book, that passage of when you first time see her body, you say, my brave daughter, it made me cry.
Yeah,
like a book has never made me cry.
Yeah, of course.
And that part, like I broke down in tears. And I mean, how could you speak to anyone? Could you, like you said, it wasn't even comprehensible. So what gave you that faith? Was it our mother? Or
I mean, there is always hope. There is always hope. Hope is something that on occasions you can't define. You later on reflect on it. One thing that, I mean, when we were leaving Swat and people were just crowded all around us, when she was taken in an ambulance from hospital to the helipad. And there I told people. So I was quite even in that time I didn't lose my what can I say? I didn't lose my. I was not out of senses. I can say, like I was still stable. Mentally, I was stable. Emotionally, I was completely shattered. But mentally, I was stable because when we were leaving that place, I asked people to raise their hands and pray God that God may protect her and she may be saved by Allah Almighty. So from there, the second moment that was very difficult, that when she was taken to the operation theater in the combined military hospital in Peshawar, and the doctors. So while she was inside the what that is called OT, that's called, And in the middle, somebody called me that you need, the doctors want to talk to you, or they said that you are needed.
Was it about the decision about the...
No, it was before that. It was during the surgery.
During the surgery.
And my heart fell down because I just thought that the doctors might be saying me that they couldn't save her life. And
this is making me feel weird.
And when I went close to that area, one of the nurses told me that she needs blood. And thankfully, I took a sigh of relief then, and I asked one of my friends, and they were there, and they arranged the blood. So that was very difficult time. And then on the second day, so the surgery went very well. The doctors who did Malala's surgery in Peshawar, Colonel Junaid and
he did an amazing job here.
Yes, they did the right job at the right time.
At the right time, yeah.
And they did a fantastic job. They saved her life, basically.
Yeah.
And after the surgery, they came out and they told us almost in the morning time, like she was taken for surgery 12:30 at 1, and the surgical procedure was completed 5 to 6 hours it took. And when they came out, so then they explained, we were standing under a tree, and they explained that what did they do. They took a piece of from the skull and they put it in her tummy, and they let space for brain to swell. So I was really like shocked that, like removing part of skull. And then I asked, so what you will do later on with that part? And they said, it's very easy. Dr. Mumtaz said that we will take it out after 3 months and put it back, and all will be done. Everything will be okay. So that was something that, And then Turpeke was very upset, and she was asking Colonel Junaid again and again that will she survive? And Colonel Junaid told her that, do you believe in God? And she said yes. So he said, then pray to him. I think that because what we could do, we did. Then everything else is not in our hands. Anyway, on the next day, that was the most difficult day.
Basically, throughout this day, I want to ask you, were you in... Because I was personally living in thoughts of dilemma. I was like, if my sister goes away, I was something like this has never happened to me. I was like, will I commit suicide after? And I was thinking like that, will I be able to live without my sister and thing, So did you go through any of post what if it doesn't go my way, those dilemmas? And
no, I didn't personally think like those things, but I was very worried and very, very my heart was sinking every second that God forbid if we lose her forever. And on the second day, when I went inside and I saw her body, and all these medical equipments had been attached to her body, like those pipes and wires and stuff, and her body was so swollen, that there were red spots on her face. And meanwhile, Dr. Fiona and Dr. Javed Kiani came from Peshawar, and I was there in that small room, and I asked a nurse that, will she survive? And the nurse told me, pray to God. And she was right. But that comment made me disappointed further. That brought further hopelessness. And I just crumbled down, or just sat at a small wall. I sat down, and then I tried to stand up, and when I stood back, so again I tried like a madman. I asked
how was your faith?
Fiona.
And what was
Dr. Fiona, I asked her, Dr. Fiona, so you will understand how faith comes.
faith? Yeah.
And it was my first conversation with her.
Yeah.
And I asked her that, what do you think, will she survive? And she said that, no, actually I said, is there any hope? And she said that if there had been no hope, she won't have been there. So this comment from a doctor was very promising, it was giving me hope. And then she told me that if she survives, she should survive, but if she dies, I will be surprised. So she shouldn't die. So that gave me a big hope. Then Torpeke came out, and she told me that Khesta, she called me sometime Khesta. I am sure that she will survive because the doctor was putting some eye drops in her eyes. If she was dying, why they were putting eye drops in her eyes?
Wow, it's the little things that were given.
Little things, yeah.
Yeah.
And then at that night, Torpeke recited a few verses which were advised to her by Papa, her elder brother, and she recited those verses all the night. And then I was like a bit drowsy, so half sleepy, and then she woke me up and told me that, Hesta, I feel that I have been told that she will survive after reading those verses from the Holy Quran. So these were the things really, as you said, that that kept us strong, and especially your friends and your family, and then your close family. Like the greatest source of strength for me was Torpekai. I believed in her prayers. I prayed too, but I more believed in her prayers, honestly speaking. And if you ask Mubashir Hassan that night, while she was going through surgery inside, she was standing and holding the Holy Quran in her hand and praying to God loudly. Yeah. And Mubashir told her, as you all know that we don't, or culturally, people don't want very loud voice, especially by female. So he told her that, can you pray quietly? And she said, no, I'm asking God loudly that she should survive. He has to protect her.
Wow.
So I mean, these were things that giving us a kind of strength, resilience. And then obviously we were in the best hands in terms of medical staff, in terms of doctors. There were great doctors and nurses, and then also we got the support of Dr. Fiona, Dr. Javed Kiani, and those were the people that restored our hope. And then, because you were there and you saw everything. So, you mean what gave us hope? I'll tell two things. Family, friends, and people support. Yeah. That was one thing. And second thing was, honestly speaking, it was our faith. It was the belief, like...
I don't, personally, I always had belief that even when I came here, when we saw her here, you guys were initially very upset that because of the condition she was in. Even then I had faith that this girl is going to be fine in future, but I just didn't know where it came from. It was deeply embedded in me.
You reflect on it later. Yeah. And the second thing which I wanted to tell you was like the faith part. I remember that in those days I didn't miss any prayer. I do pray nowadays, but sometimes I miss some of the prayers. I am not that punctual. Sorry for that. But for those months, I was very, very, extremely punctual in my prayers. When we were in AFIC and we were staying in an army hostel, so I didn't miss any prayer. And interesting thing is that I started meditation.
Oh. So what kind of meditation were you doing?
Kind of meditation that I used to read quietly some of the verses from the Holy Quran. Like I will mention one famous verse that is called Ayatul Kursi.
Yes, sir.
You know that, and you might
It's for protection and
memorized it.
Yeah.
And like I read Ayatul Kursi hundreds of times with the sending salam on the Holy Prophet, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa, and Surah Fatiha, and the verses which were advised by Papa to us. And after reading them, I thought of Malala, because we were in Pakistan and she had moved to UK. So I mean, some people who purely believe in science, they may like question me and they may laugh at me that he is a madman. But I did this practice with a belief, and I, in my imagination, in my thoughts, in my meditation, I was sending angels. I mean, angel from here, I mean a supernatural support or a divine support
You're putting
from
this
God.
energy out there in the universe.
Yeah, in the universe, that it will reach to the doctors.
Yeah.
Will
Whatever it
reach
is.
wherever it. And even I used to face my. I mean to face UK because she was here. That they may. I'm sending
wow.
it there.
That's
So
beautiful.
these are the things which really. So you can tell about your experience of those days. I'm sorry, I spoke for long.
No, it's okay. I wanted to know your perspective because we haven't really talked about this, you know. I was stuck in the world of coulda, shouldas. I was like, oh, what if I was on that bus and I could have saved I mean, I was an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, we couldn't have done anything.
Yeah, of course.
And I was like, oh, what if... Because, you know, I hated being in this country for the first 2 years. And every other night I was crying that I want to go back.
Yes.
And for me, life was an oblivion. When we came here, the first day, my life was a blur. I didn't know. I was just waiting for the day when we go back to Swat.
Yes.
And then realized that, okay, there's no going back home soon. And, you know, 4 years went past by of me stuck in my thoughts. I got trapped in the world of thoughts and past. And I was doing more thinking than living.
Exactly. I understand that. And so,
then,
but if I told you my strength, like what kept me and what kept me strong. So what kept you strong? Like, I mean, I know that you went through a very difficult condition, difficult situation, like lost, and you were also very traumatized.
Yeah.
I remember that when we were going back to Pakistan, and you were very traumatized. You were very fine when once we were there. Then you were very fine. But before we just
left for back, yeah.
But once but when we start talking about it, you were very scared. Okay, leave that. But I mean, what kept you strong?
What kept me okay?
Or how did you go through this situation?
So for the first few years, I was basically going through depressive phase, and it was too much. It wasn't. Basically, my mind couldn't process a lot of things, so a lot of things got suppressed. You know, I didn't think about a lot of things. I didn't understand what truly happened. For the first, you know, I kept myself. I became a video game addict. I had anger issues, if you remember, from video games.
Yeah, you broke 8 controllers.
8 controllers, yeah, and part of me thought
and we had a lot of fights.
Yeah, we had a lot of fights. Maybe if we don't talk about it in this podcast, I would love to talk about it in future.
Okay.
Because that transition, you know, our relationship, because it hasn't, you know, it became
that should
strengthened
be
over
a
time.
different topic. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For me, I think it was you guys and my Shabazz and my friends. That's where I got my strength.
Good.
You know, being able to open up to them. And initially, I wasn't able to do that. Initially, you know, in Pakistan, we used to hear bomb blasts and gun thing. I thought it was normal. I thought what I was going through was normal. When I came here and I saw other kids, their childhood seemed like flowers and butterflies. And I you know, I'm not gonna lie to you, like a year ago I cried because I really like, because I was like the childhood me went through stuff that I thought it was normal, like I didn't deserve to go through that, you know.
Yeah, of course.
But Mani made me strong. You know, initially
Yeah.
people think that
You and also
can
when
you
you think
overcome
of
these
millions
tests?
of children who
Yeah.
are there who are going through the same situation like us.
Yeah, you know, I was thinking like, what if it doesn't go? You know, what if Malala gets disabled or she doesn't survive? Will I be suicidal? You know, but then the time, you know, it
heals.
It heals you, and also there's that quote in Quran that God only puts so much suffering that you can control.
And you can carry.
You can carry. Yeah. So somehow, I don't know, it's mostly friends and family. You know, I tried counseling and a couple of times. It was good, like got some stuff on my chest, but it didn't help that much. Yeah, so that's what kept me strong. Yeah. You guys. You know how you guys never crumbled in front of me, and I really admire that in front of me. Yeah. They were nice. You guys cried and
we were strength for one another. I was strength for Torpeke. She was a strength for me, and Malala was a strength for all of us.
Yeah.
I remember that when we came to UK, and Malala left Pakistan on. I think she was attacked on 9, and then 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 or 15. I think she left Pakistan on 15 October. And then we joined her 10 days after, like on 25th of October. So once we saw her in the hospital, and that was the time that she cried.
Yeah, that was the one, yeah.
And when she cried, and like the girl that we had left that morning on the 9th of October, that glowing face and very healthy, that Malala was not there because this part of
her hearing was gone,
was shaven, and when she cried, her mouth tilted to one side, and I mean, physically, she was extremely
vulnerable, extremely
changed, and we tried to keep ourselves strong, seeing her in that situation. And I told her two things at that very moment. That Johnny, look, the bullet that was meant for me, you have taken that bullet, because Taliban basically not only threatened you, but I was also on Taliban's radar. I was on their list to be killed. So this is one thing. And number two, that was kind of consoling comment from me for Johnny, was that I believe that you have gone through all sufferings for your life and for the rest of your life in one go. And henceforth you will see no difficulty, no sadness, no hardships. I mean, I wanted to make her, like, to soothe her. So these were two things, but that is what I said to her. But I remember that when we came back from her to our home, to the hostel we're living in, and Torpeke and I, we cried the whole night seeing her that way. Anyway, so, but as you said, time heals, and things changed with the passage of time.
What kept me, another thing that gave me strength was Malala own effort on her own health.
Yeah.
She did her physio on time.
Okay.
She did her walk.
Yeah.
She did her runs. And you know,
I
taking responsibility for you.
Totally agree with you.
She fought.
Yeah.
She fought.
Yeah.
She was a fighter before, and she was a fighter after, and she's still
Even she was a fighter when she was on her bed in the hospital. And until this second, I and you, we are sitting here. Until now, for the last 9 years,
Yeah.
I have never ever heard a single word of complaint from her.
So what kind of complaint? For
Like she could have said in the beginning while she was in the hospital that what has happened to her, she could curse Taliban, she could curse anybody else, she could blame us, for example, that we could have stopped her or we should have stopped her from doing that activism. People make complaints out of nowhere. But she never said a single word that could dishearten us or that was a reason of repentance or that could make us guilty for something. And she was very clear.
And that's what gave us strength.
That gave us strength.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And
how was it like? So the first time you saw her in a hospital, like, was part of you expecting her to say that, oh, she might, like, were you worried? Like, were you thinking about what her first words would be when you saw her after a month before, like
we saw her
her
after
attack?
10 days.
Was any more than that?
No, because we saw her. She couldn't speak, but we saw her on the morning when she was, the same morning we saw her when she was leaving for the UK.
No, the first time we spoke to her, the whole family met her in QE. Then, what was part of you, when...
Yeah, really we didn't know because she was, those were the first days she started speaking. And even her speech was affected. She could not speak as fluent as she was speaking before.
Yeah.
Before the attack, she was speaking slowly, dragging the words, are kind of giving long syllables, making the syllables long.
Yeah, that word was quite draggy. It took a time. Yeah,
exactly. So it was the beginning days of her recovery. But one thing which I want to tell you, that Malala's presence in our lives is the greatest blessing of God. And if I don't have words to express my gratitude, and even I don't have the kind of good deeds and actions that I could pay back for this blessing of her new life in our lives, in our family lives.
As a son, the things that I've seen you do for other people and how, because that's never in front of media or anything. The thing you do from home, you are one of the most incredible people I know. So don't be hard on yourself.
Basically, all of us, we pay back what we have been given, like the love, the support that we have received from the whole world.
Yeah, he was
That
amazing.
is incredible. And this is how, when you are blessed and when you are privileged and when you have more, then it becomes mandatory for your personal values, or it should be the part of your ethics that you pay back and you share. So what we do, I think we have to do it. And
nature shows kindness to you when you're kind to the nature.
Do good and have good. You get what you give, basically.
Yeah.
It's so simple.
It is very simple. Was part of you revengeful towards the Taliban?
No, I was very angry because it's very difficult when you see your most loved one on the verge of life and death and almost taken away from you. But I had the deep understanding of what happened to us.
And where did you learn that? Where did you learn?
I believed that.
Where did you find your own forgiveness?
Those were not the to the two guys who attacked her bus, those two guys were misguided, or they were incited because of the kind of ideology or the kind of bigotry that formats or that makes the extremist ideology.
Yeah,
that
no one is
they
born
believe.
evil. No one is.
Yeah,
No one
so
is born
that's
evil.
why
It's
I had in my heart, like even in Turpekai's heart, we had not that height of revenge against the guys who attacked
But how
Malala.
is your ideology?
But I became more committed. I became more committed to fight against the ideology which make people killers, which take away the lives of the innocent people of our country. So it made me more committed to the cause. As I said to you yesterday,
Was it positive
that I
revenge?
believe in positive revenge.
That is by fighting for the
And
cause.
that's why then it's easy for you that you go after to change people's mind, to save other people. I mean, I will tell you a similar response which I saw later in my life was given by Iqbal Lala.
Yeah.
When Mashal Khan was brutally lynched by those bigots.
Yeah, I want to
and
give
those,
some context. So Mashal was basically a university student who was accused for blasphemy, and basically was beaten to death by a huge crowd in the streets. His body was beaten. I mean, he was dead, and his body was still beaten in the streets for hours. So please continue. I just want to.
So Iqbal Lala, Mashal Khan's father, he was calm, he was quiet, and he was composed. I think the trauma that he has seen,
I can't fathom
I
it.
think you, me, and many other can't even think of that. Mashal's mother,
Like his son's
Iqbal
death is
Lala
on
himself.
video. It's
But what he said, his historical words were that my Mashal is gone, but I want to save other Mashals
wow.
from extremism, from intolerance. So, forgiveness is something that gives you peace.
Yeah.
And when you don't have any hate, then you are at peace and you spread peace.
Yeah.
So, I'll also just mention about Malala's conversation with the Archbishop of Canterbury, when the Archbishop asked her that did she forgive Taliban, and her response was absolutely beautiful. She said yes, because revenge needs to be hateful.
Yeah.
And she doesn't want to live with hate.
Do you know what's amazing?
Because hate is harmful for your health.
And do you know what's amazing? Because she set an example. Because when I heard Malala herself forgive Taliban, initially I was like, nah, in our culture it's eye for an eye, and it's like a code, and Patan, and I must take revenge and all that. I was in that kind of, plus my anger was justified to me because you guys almost took my sister's life away. I was angry. But when she made that action, not only did she give peace to herself, she gave peace to me.
Exactly.
And it's not that she told me, Khushal, she showed it through actions. A lot of people, they do more talking, less action.
Yeah.
And this is what I admire about you and Malala is, at the end of the day, examples, true examples is what truly influences people. And like you were saying about activists, in order to truly bring a change, you need to set an example and you need to be committed to your cause.
Exactly.
So it brings also another thing I want to talk about is roles of fathers and men in society. How we must, because you created an environment where I never doubted Malala's rights, and then I saw other brothers, and I saw it ridiculous because my freedom means so much to me.
Yes.
And this one thing I'm grateful for, you allowed me to learn for myself.
Exactly.
That's what freedom gives you.
Yes.
So it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fail an exam. If I had pressure on me, I had my own pressure. That's why I didn't do well in my A-levels first time. If I had pressure if you put an external pressure on me, I don't think if I would be in Kings right now, I think I would have just gone to a uni that I wouldn't have been happy with, or I might have kind of lost my, or might have felt like, oh, I'm not making you proud, or silly thoughts, you know, instead of making myself proud, instead of working hard for myself. So how do you think we brothers and fathers can play a role in order to encourage?
I think we discussed it before, and especially for breaking patriarchy, for ending patriarchy, we need feminist fathers and feminist brothers.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
a baby girl, when she's born, the first man she meets in her life is her father.
Yeah.
And if she has male siblings before her birth, then the second men she meets are her brothers.
Yeah.
So if that family institution believes in equality, if that family institutions believes in equal respect for a boy and for a girl, and if that family institution is believing in justice and fairness and like human dignity for everyone, then you are done with patriarchy. Then that change is the most powerful change, because that change is not forced. Yeah. Because that change come through the values of the family, and what becomes the value of your life
and your family,
that becomes you, that becomes your family, that becomes your community,
that becomes your community, yeah.
And consequently that becomes your country.
Yeah.
So that's why I always emphasize on the role of family, and then particularly on the role of fathers and
it's psychologically
brothers.
Proven. There's a study by Bowlby, it's his theory. He talks about the internal working model, and he says that your childhood really influences who you are going to be in future.
Exactly.
And if you have created an environment for example, a girl where she doesn't feel comfortable raising her voice, then she's not going to be able to do anything in future for herself. And
it was the environment. Your mother says, Torbeke says that when you were very young children, siblings, and if Torbeke made 2 eggs for you, and she made one for Malala, she was angry. She said, why 2 for him and 1 for her? And Torbeke told her that she can't eat 2. She's not eating 1. She eats half of the egg. She said, no, anyway, if I eat 2 or 1, but you have to make 2 for me.
You know what I told her this morning? I was like, so I eat 5. Now you need to eat 5 because she barely eats.
This was Malala's consciousness towards equality. Because
I love it.
She could see the inequality in other families.
Yeah.
And she wanted to protect her rights. Yeah. She was sensitive towards those things. But later on, you see that this value of equality became a value of the family, and for you and Athal, it's normal. You will be shocked if you see in a family a girl treated differently. I believe that.
Without a doubt. Yes.
Yeah,
and that was in such a patriarchal society as well.
It will be normal for you if there is an equality, and you will absolutely feel very abnormal about something which you see that there is any discrimination to anyone because of their gender. So this is what we want to see in our young boys and fathers, of course.
And that's something I want to work on, is specifically on role of brothers, what they can do, because it's very hypocritical, because you know how much I love just walking and like even the most basic things like training, going gym, all of that stuff. And if I was a girl and that stuff was taken away from me, or if I was my life
if all boys think like you, we will be a great society. If all boys change, if all boys reflect, like there are a lot of boys. I believe and I hope so. But if all boys think like this, that if they were girls, for example, and they opportunities, the facilities, the freedom that they have now as a boy, if being girl they didn't have that, what then they will feel?
What they will feel. Empathy.
Empathy. And that feeling will change them, to be honest.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
I was just like reading about the news of the sad demise of a woman, and she belongs to a famous Pashtun family. And they, I will not name them, and they, like the news about her death was the auntie of Mr. So-and-so,
Yeah.
and
own name was not stated.
and the niece of Mr. So-and-so, and the daughter of Mr. So-and-so, like 3 men were mentioned, but her name was not there. So it's a shame
It really
that
is.
even you don't.
And is your pride that insecure?
can-
Are you that
even-
insecure? Come on.
you don't name
that you.
the person who has died. So the right of name.
Yeah, and why?
This is something unacceptable.
And this pride is an issue. It's a huge issue.
Of course
This
it is.
why you insecure about your mother produced you. She was a woman. You came into your life through her.
Exactly.
And you feel insecure even mentioning her name?
Yeah.
Wasn't this the person that pretty much gives birth to all men?
Exactly.
It's upsetting. It really is.
Yeah.
And we'll do our best to bring change. I'm hopeful for future. You know, as we have seen, you know, the book Factfulness has shown that the world is improving despite this COVID, and media might make it seem like it's all gone to, I don't know,
Yeah.
crumbles, but no, in reality, a lot of stuff, the life expectancy, education,
Of
so
course,
many
you're right.
things have
I agree.
improved. Go a century back and it's a different world.
Yeah.
And inshallah, we'll do our best. And thank you so much for your patience, and because I had a couple of technical issues and coming on here.
You are welcome, and my love and blessings are with you.
Yeah.
This is your first podcast, but not your last.
No, man.
But I will advise you that you should not do too much. You should be very selective.
Yeah.
You should little, but the best.
Listen, but yeah.
When we were school
Quality
boys,
over quantity.
there was a famous topic in our Pashto book, Rashida Khatulika Lagulika Hukhawlika.
Lagulika.
Write little, but write beautifully.
Yeah.
So you do little in quantity,
Yeah.
but best in quality.
Best in quality.
Is that okay?
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome.
Loved talking to you.
Yeah.
I hope to talk to you again. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us.